back in February, I was contacted by an agency here in Istanbul that actually wanted me to exhibit some work, a massive photography show that they were doing across 31 venues citywide back in October 2024, so just a couple of months ago. I actually knew who they were, and it was actually interesting because I was actually going to reach out to them to offer to exhibit. However, they reached out to me and wanted in the end to exhibit a huge batch of work. A batch of work that would need some alterations and some that would be ready to print. It was going to be a collection of work, some photographed here in Turkey, you may remember from the mosque series that I photographed. Then there was going to be some of my back catalogue, some of my classical prints, and on top of that, there's going to be some Middle Eastern works too. I'm going to be getting into that in today's video, and I'm going to break it down for you, how to prepare those images for large exhibitions. Now, I'm sorry this video is a couple of days late. Actually, it was all ready to go, but then I decided to build kind of a new desk. So this is a kind of new setup that I'm building here, and it's going to take time to get it looking really good. And on top of that, I also launched my Enigma of Namibia photo tour for 2026, and I was out at the time with my wife over the weekend, and it sold out in record time to the point where I hadn't limited numbers on my website and it went to 17, which was extreme to say the least. So I've ended up having to put on a second set of dates. So that kind of bogged me down doing that, the business side of the photography, and of course it's tax return month as well. I'm doing all of that, not uploading this video, so my apologies. So yeah, let's get on to this week's video and let's break down what we did to prepare those images for the exhibition. Make a folder first of all, and I've got basically a small SSD that I basically place projects on, and in here I've got a project folder, simply put Istanbul photography exhibition. And inside, of course, I've got the web format, I've got the flyers, the TIFFs, the socials, all the things that they're going to require at some point. And of course, part of that as well would be your biography or descriptions of the images. Now, this is the final, what it actually looked like at the start, but we begin by just having a print selection TIFF folder, which essentially ties into Lightroom. And the idea here is that it's making your life a little bit easier when it comes to looking through Lightroom catalog, putting them into Photoshop and back and forth once you've resized, and then saving them in the folder. And you can see here, if I go into the JPEG folder, this is everything that they're going to print. Now, there's a range of sizes, and we're talking about big, 2 meter plus images. We're talking about smaller, 60 centimeters. We're talking about 84, 110. Some of my sort of basically traditional sizes that I always offer as prints over on my website. So for me, it was always a case of guiding them. And whenever I'm in contact with people doing exhibitions like this, I guide them on my photos. I know which ones print well. I also know which ones would look best at which sizes, based on what they've been photographed on, how they were photographed, and of course, how they were post-processed. Sometimes just some images, they've got nasty lighting in them, especially in architecture. Sometimes there's lighting issues that just look a little bit ghastly when it comes to like photographing and then printing that image. Others just naturally tend to, with softer light or nice, interesting light, print really, really well. And that's what I was trying to direct them towards. Usually, my images are kind of prepared for print. If they're in a series, then I know that I could get an order, meaning that they are ready to go. Now, I knew that 3 of the images that they'd selected might need additional work. So these are the images. Now, whenever it comes to cataloging and working through images like this, I'm always using Lightroom. And because it's easy for me to flick through the images, look through them, resize them, export and resize them, and also flick them into Photoshop to do additional works. So I've selected a new file that maybe needs a little bit of work, and I've sent over to Photoshop an older piece, and one that's like a classical, one that I print a lot. So let's go over into Photoshop now and just double check these 2 images and just have a quick discussion. Now, but first of all, I'm going to kind of remove the one that's newer. I'm going to just focus on this particular one. Now, most of my images are already set as a certain way. Now, the first thing is the mode. Now, I'm normally looking to make sure that the print images, the ones that are going to go to the print store, are CMYK. So that's the first change we're going to make. Now, not always, but 90% of the time, print labs want CMYK. It's just the mode, the print space that they print in. Now, for me, that's usually exactly the same. When I'm sending images to print in a lab or doing it at home or sending it in this way to places where I don't actually know where they're printing the images. It's going to be in Istanbul, of course, and I can go and check, but ultimately I don't know where. But I'm going to set it to CMYK and tell them that that's what I've done when I send the images over in my email. I normally choose 8 bits, 16 bits is kind of rare and people don't request it that often, so I'm going to leave it as 8 bits. And the more important thing here is I'm going to make sure when I come into this section, I've got the image size. Now I'm going to change this to centimeters. Now all of these images, because I don't know at the minute exactly which images were going to be printed at which size, I'm thinking back in time here, I'm going to set them all to 84 centimeters and tell them that I've done that, and then they can basically resize them as needed, so as fits basically. That way it'll be easier to upload and send the images to them, and also it's going to be easier to kind of manage those files and so on when it comes to kind of their distribution. When I've done those changes, the next thing I do is, because I don't want it actually to go to my Lightroom catalog, I don't want it to go back there, I'm actually just going to go into my folder, save as, go to my folder, and I'm actually going to make a new CMYK print selection folder. And in there, each image here, I actually process each image like this. I name it, I write the series name, my name, and that's really, really important. And the reason why my name is important is because they're dealing with, would you believe, over 50 artists across 31 venues. It's easy for them to get, maybe admin assistants working on stuff. They might not know who I am. And I don't want my work to get muddled up with somebody else's. So let's just name the images. So that's what we're going to do. We name it like so, JPEG. We're actually going to change that to a TIFF, of course. And when we do that, you're going to see all of my print selection TIFFs in there in exactly the same manner. Every single one is named in this way. The name of the file, where it was shot, the series, my name, and of course it's a TIFF. That's exactly what we did. Now I did this across every single file. Now for the new ones, there was always more work that needed to be done. I would always, and this is really, really simple, and I'm going to get into this with another video in a couple of weeks' time. The main thing that I do when I'm getting an image ready for print is zoom into 100%, all the way into the image, let's call it 100%, and then we look through the image exactly on every single part of it, how it looks. Is there any blemishes, light spots, errors? And on this image, there actually was. Right here, on the image, there was actually purple fringing, flare coming from that window. So essentially, just do a little bit of work, remove that purple fringing, get rid of the image, make it look good, make sure it's consistent throughout. And then when we zoom back out, of course, the image can be looked at. Sharpening, I don't actually sharpen that much for architecture, not globally. I might do subtle changes to the file, like on the edges, but to be honest with you, I'm shooting with tilt shift. I'm getting it right in camera, and they're really sharp, and sharp enough for architecture photos. So it's usually blemishes like this, lens flare, purple fringing, some sort of aberration, or maybe some sort of green fringes from windowsills that you sometimes get on those, and occasionally as well, spots, problems that I've missed in camera. Now, one key thing here is I've asked them the type of medium they're printing on, because whether we want to introduce a border or not. Now, if we were not going to put a border, we'd be ready to go. But if we were, we could go back into here and we could kind of resize the image, downsize it. Say, for example, we could put 77 centimeters on the longest edge. Then we could go back in to the image here. We could simply just add on 7 centimeters to our overall size, and that gives us a border like so. I do that on my personal prints. But for this show, we're not doing that. So Control Z, we're going back to this file, save that as, and that's basically good to go. We would basically go save as, put that back in the folder. Same thing as before, print selection CMYK, put this to TIFF, and of course we know it's already going to be in there. Same thing as before, naming the file, placing it where it is, and of course my name too. So that's pretty much the preparation. Key questions: where, how big, format, medium, basically the format that they're going to print on, like what type of print, and finally, of course, naming your files. They're the key things for getting these images ready. I'm actually in Üsküdar, about to cross on the ferry over the other side to actually check out the exhibition, and I'm hoping it's going to be brilliant. Okay, we're now walking down. Actually, we used to live here. It's really busy, and we've just come off the ferry and we're doing a 20-minute walk down to the exhibition. You can see how mad it is, and probably why I never made any videos in this area. This is my wife, Gizem. You have to speak loud because my microphone's here.
Hello.
So yeah, I'm basically 5 minutes out, and we're going to go check out the exhibition. Somebody had a bit sneak peek yesterday, but I've not seen any of the prints. I want to check the condition, how they look, how they are. Yeah, hopefully it's going to be looking good. We're inside and it's pretty cool. We're enjoying it. 28 works across 3 rooms. There's like a central room with a biography on the wall, and then there's basically 2 large prints in there. I'm starting off here though in the classic section. This is kind of like my portfolio area. So Middle East, UAE, uninhabited series and so on. So there's some of the classics in here that have sold over years, you know, over the 10 years that I've been doing this sort of genre now. So in here we have stuff from Namibia and of course Lebanon, UAE and more. And I really like the way they've laid it out. So actually some of the layouts in here, in particular on this side as you look, you can see there's one central one in the middle which is kind of bigger, and then a couple of smaller ones either side, so it's looking nice. All of them are at a nice eye level and eye height as well, and you've kind of got window separators on each side too, which looks really, really cool. As we come through to the central section, you've got 2 really large ones that I've actually never printed before. You've got the big one from Italy on the wall here, the classic, and then you've got another one from Turkey on this side. So this is in the eastern side of the country. Biography on the wall, follow it through into this side. Might flicker a little bit in here with the lighting. A lot of new works in here, stuff that was kind of created here in Turkey over the last, I don't know, maybe 4 years or so. You've got some of the classic mansion shots in smaller sizes by the window. Of course, the whole point and purpose of this was all of the sanctuary mosque series that we did. So we've got all of these. I really love how this one's printed, the one here on the corner. So this one was from kind of like my blue series, Azure. I like the detail in it. It's printed really, really nicely. Again, same thing in the corner, some of the stuff from Cappadocia and beyond. And then finally into this area too, we've also got a lot more. So this side's a bit smaller, but ultimately works really, really well. So you've got some really nice colours in this section. You see here you've got the blues in the hammam over in Izmir. Again, more of the sanctuary series. The one that I particularly enjoy is over in the corner here. For the remainder of the week, I've actually got some events that I'm doing for these guys. Some portfolio reviews, which I can show you behind the scenes on if you're interested. And of course, I can also kind of talk about some of the stuff that I'm doing in terms of judging. And I've also been doing some other bits in terms of the exhibition as well itself. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to basically give you some little snippets now, just so voiceover clips. Enjoy the B-roll, and I'll show you around. I was originally told that some of the images might be printed on the floor, and actually that some of the images as well might actually be putting on like an LED light panel and be sort of rear mounted. So I guided them as well on which images would work good for this. And for architecture, it tends to be where it's backlit. Imagine you've got a backlit scene, you've got light coming through the frame. That kind of thing looks fantastic when the images are backlit. But in the end, they actually went for this traditional look right across the first floor of this building in Besiktas. And it looks fantastic. You can see here as my wife walks through the various rooms. And to be honest with you, they were up against it. 31 venues across the city, huge city of course, 20 million people, difficult to get things done. But some of the exhibits were actually placed into, so some of the prints were actually placed into the rooms after my first and only visit. So there was actually a larger print placed into the room, in the middle room of the desert scape. And then of course there was another floor print added after my visit. So they weren't included in this kind of walkthrough guide that I'm showing you here today. I was really happy with how things turned out overall, but for me there was certain bits that I did miss when it came to preparing the files, and that's why it's essential that you do that if you're looking to do larger images in this way. As I'm always getting good feedback on is really to do with like my file management and how I prepare images for print and communicate with the people and put them in folders and so on. For that, I'm normally using Google Drive. I actually have an account on there and I can upload the TIFFs. It's really easy. I'm essentially making exactly the same file system as I showed you earlier to do with my actual, on my hard drive. And then I kind of mirror that, replicate that on Google Drive so that people can go in and download exactly what they need. Okay, so that's pretty much everything for today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been a pleasure to show you around the exhibition, talk to you about how I prepare the images, and it's a very basic and easy thing to do, to be honest with you. You've sort of seen that. It might not be that useful for some people, but for others it may be. Now this video probably should go after the next two, because the next video I'm going to upload is a week on Tuesday, so I'm going to have a little break, 10 days, to prepare a video for you about editing. And I'm actually going to do the kind of blending side of things first of all, pulling images together ready for edits, for a final edit. That's been requested on the channel loads, so I really hope you respond and watch that one when it's launched. And if you've not done so already, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Of course, you'll then be alerted when that video goes live, which is going to be in 10 days time. After that, 2 weeks later, I'm going to do another follow-up video about stylizing images and bringing them alive. I'm going to be doing that with Luminar Neo, and it's going to be all about how we can make Luminar Neo and other plugins work for us outside of Lightroom and Photoshop, and that's what that video is going to be about. Keep an eye out for those. Next, after that, we're out live in the field once again in Sicily, and it's a new trip for me, a new scouting tour, and we're going to be giving content to the channel from there, and it's going to be amazing at the end of February. Great time to be going to a place like Sicily. After that, I'm back to Romania. I've got Moldova in March as well, following up by April, the Balkans, Montenegro I cannot wait for. We're back in Montenegro and the Balkans, and of course doing Serbia with that one too. Finally, this spring we're in Cuba, which is amazing. I cannot wait to go there. We've got a sold-out tour, me and Greg, and there's basically going to be bumper sets of content coming from there. I'm not sure what the internet's going to be like, but in terms of content, after that, there's going to be tons of it right through the summer as well. So I hope you've enjoyed 2024. 2025 is going to be bigger, much more to come. And if you're interested in stuff I'm doing in the future, head on over to my website. I mentioned Namibia earlier. There's other content and tours on there as well. Until next time, got any comments, leave them below. And until then, see you very soon. See you in 10 days' time. Bye for now.